Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are exploring something truly mind-bending, how one singular current mathematically became two. We're looking at a cosmological framework that completely throws out the old idea of a dead, static universe. Instead, it replaces it with an actively breathing, fiercely intelligent 12-dimensional engine.
So how exactly does a universe of cold mechanics learn to breathe? It's a huge question, right? To answer it, we have to totally shift our perspective. This isn't just poetic philosophy. It's a strict mechanical necessity. Think about it. A thermodynamic system can't just expand outward forever, or it succumb to heat death and freeze solid. It has to figure out a way to turn around. It literally has to learn how to inhale and exhale.
Section 1. The first outbreath. To understand how that first breath works, let's go all the way back to the beginning. We start with our protagonist, a single, furious current of pure energy igniting at the absolute zero-dimensional core, what we call D0. From there, it begins this massive upward climb through the positive dimensions. It sparks into vibration and light through D1 and D2, climbs right across space and time in D3 and D4, and finally reaches its absolute peak complexity up at dimensions 5 and 6. It is absolutely crucial to grasp that at the very origin of reality, there was only this one solitary upward flow, just a single line of force riding up the inner curve of the great cosmic torus, the giant energetic donut shape of the universe. This singular upward rush is known as inner above. Section 2, the first snapback. Now, every engine needs boundaries to function, and our universe is certainly no exception.
As this current reaches dimension 6, it simply runs out of room. It hits what's called the above ring. This is literally the physical and mathematical ceiling of the universe. It's an impassable geometric boundary where that outward momentum hits absolute maximum tension. As the framework states, it could not continue straight, so it performed its first snapback. The current doesn't just decide to turn around, it's mathematically forced to react to its environment. It hits that ceiling, and it aggressively snaps. But here's the twist. This violent snap doesn't just send the current bouncing straight back down the exact way it came. Instead, the geometry of the torus sharply redirects it. The flow gets pushed outward, sliding down along the outer curve of the upper half of the universe. And with this new path, our current transforms into what we call outer above. Section 3, split at the Omni ring. Our newly formed outer above current is now hurtling down the outer edge, fast approaching the climax of its journey. It's rushing headlong toward the cosmic equator, known as the Omni ring. Picture this as a massive structural hinge, where the top half of the universe meets the bottom half. It is the absolute defining boundary of the whole toroidal structure. And this brings us to the ultimate problem. Up until this exact moment, we've had a single, unbroken flow of energy. But as it hits the Omni ring, it encounters a constraint so fundamental that it forces a choice. The geometry of the torus flat out dictates that a single current cannot cross this threshold intact. It simply cannot continue as one.
Forced by this constraint, it splits perfectly into two distinct paths. On one side, we get current A. This one fiercely resists the curvature of the torus. It basically rejects the downward path and performs a sharp snapback directly toward the center, looping right back to the D0 core. But on the other side, we have current B. This flow accepts the geometry. It yields to the curve, performs a continuous Mobius twist, and dives straight down into the lower half. Section 4, twist into the lower half. Let's follow current B, because this is where the return stroke of the universe really takes shape. As current B twists downward, it becomes outer below. We can trace its descent sequentially right through the negative dimensions. It dives from D-1, deeper through to D-5, until it finally hits absolute rock bottom at dimension -6. Just like the upper current hit a ceiling, current B hits its own impassable wall at the very bottom. This is the lower hinge. It is the absolute geometric floor of reality. Hitting this floor forces a second massive snapback. The energy literally cannot go any lower, so it gets violently redirected inward. It travels back up along the inner curve of the lower torus, now called inner below, and rockets straight up the central column toward the D0 core. And here, the whole thing comes full circle for a grand reunion. Current A, which took that quick shortcut by snapping back at the equator, and current B, which took the long, twisting journey through the entire lower half of the universe, crash back together. They reunite at the exact same zero-point core where this entire journey started. Section 5. The birth of biflow. This epic journey of a single spark rising, hitting a wall, splitting, and reuniting, it isn't just some one-time historical event. It is the fundamental heartbeat of reality. When we map out the whole cycle, you see this incredibly elegant repeating pattern. Inner above rises, snaps to outer above, and splits at the equator. One current snaps back to D0, while the other twists to outer below, snaps at the absolute floor, becomes inner below, and they both reunite at D0. From this point on, each current constantly alternates between a snapback at one hinge and a twist at the next. This continuous alternating flow mathematically prevents the universe from freezing to death. I absolutely want to emphasize this profound takeaway. One current became two, not by division, not by breaking, but by perfectly obeying the geometry of the torus. The universe didn't randomly shatter. It split itself just to solve a thermodynamic problem and guarantee its own survival. And that leaves us with one single, incredibly powerful number. 2. Two perfectly counterpropagating currents. One wave of energy expanding outward into complexity, while the other wave contracts inward toward refinement, operating simultaneously, permanently keeping the living manifold alive. This is exactly how the system evolved from a single, solitary spark into a self-sustaining loop. This is the birth of the biflow. It is, quite literally, how the universe learned to breathe. So, if reality itself requires this constant dual flow of expansion and contraction just to exist, what other systems in our universe are secretly powered by this exact same mathematical heartbeat? And more importantly, if you are a living coordinate inside this engine, what happens when you finally stop looking outward and start looking entirely inward? Think on that, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.